Our lesson for today is still processing transactions of a merchandising business. And class, we're already on part 4 ng merchandising business. And part 4 is about shipping terms. Okay? Let's have our words of wisdom as usual. So, our words of wisdom reads like this: Everything happens for a reason. People change, so you learn how to let go. Things go wrong, so you learn to appreciate things when they go right. Okay? So this is very nice. Everything happens for a reason. People change, so you learn how to let go. Things go wrong, so you learn to appreciate them when they go right. Okay? So, plus, the situation that we are in right now is very challenging. So after this, I hope everything will be back to normal and we should learn appreciating the things that we are doing. Okay? And the next words of wisdom: if you don't start appreciating what's right in front of you, you might lose it. So this is in relation to the first one, appreciating that we have being free, being able to move around, okay, is very, very important. Now, we cannot do those things. And hopefully, as I have said, everything, let's just pray and think positive that everything will be back to normal and a better future. And this situation is just a learning process. Okay, class, let's move on. Topic learning outcomes. Students can explain the flow on the shipment of goods. Students can discuss accounts on shipping cost. Students can explain the terms of shipment, and students can illustrate responsibilities of buyer and seller in relation to shipping cost. Okay, shipping cost. But in an overview of the shipping cost, so the buyer, as a merchandising business, we are the buyer, and we are going to make arrangement with supplier or seller with regards to the shipment of goods that we are going to buy. So if the buyer will shoulder the shipping cost, kung ang arrangement between seller and buyer is that the buyer will shoulder the shipping cost, and that is called freight in or transportation in. Si buyer ang magbabayad. Yun yung ibig sabihin nun. Siya ang mag-shoulder ng cost ng shipment. So, ang tawag dyan, i-record ni buyer as freight in or transportation in. And freight in is presented as addition to purchases, meaning kung magkano yung invoice price ng pinurchase mo, dapat idadagdag mo doon yung freight in. Okay? So as seller, okay, there is also situations that we are going to ship the goods to our customer. So as seller, if we will be the ones shouldering the shipping cost, kung tayo magbabayad ng shipping cost, that is called freight out or transportation out. So yung binayaran natin freight out or transportation out, it will be recorded in the books as an expense. So freight out is recorded as an expense, in particular selling expense. Okay? And freight in is recorded as an addition to purchases. Okay, class? Next, terms of shipment. Ano-ano ba yung mga terms ng shipment? The terms of shipment is to be agreed upon between the seller and buyer. Dapat ina-agree ng seller and buyer. Okay, the terms of shipment defines the following. First, responsibilities of the seller and buyer on the movement of goods from the seller's place to the buyer's place, and who will shoulder the cost of shipment. So, kaninong responsibilities, in particular, yung cost of shipment. So, yan ang dinidefine ng terms of shipment. Next, is
It's 5 o'clock.
point for the transfer of ownership between the seller and the buyer. Saan ang transfer ng ownership? So, dinidefine yan dapat ng terms of shipment. And let's continue the terms of shipment. And number 3, at what port the freight will be paid? Saan babayaran yung freight? Okay? Pwedeng bayaran sa port of origin or sa port of destination. Sa port of origin, of course, ang nandiyan is yung si seller. So, basta binayaran ni seller sa port of origin, okay, it is called freight prepaid. Ang ibig sabihin, bago naglayag ang barko, binayaran na ni seller ang freight. Okay, binayaran, actual payment to the shipper. At port of destination, ang ibig sabihin, si buyer na ang magbabayad. Naglayag na yung barko, hindi pa nababayaran yung shipment, so si buyer na ang magbabayad sa port of destination. And that is what you call freight collect. Okay? So, the freight can be paid at port of origin, and it is called freight prepaid. Seller will be the one to pay it. Or at the port of destination, the buyer will be the one to pay it, and it's called freight collect. Okay? Let's move on. Let's illustrate what port the freight will be paid. So, port of origin or port of destination. Let's illustrate that. If this is the seller's warehouse, the seller will move the goods from his warehouse to the port of origin. Okay, and that is what you call the shipping point. And if the seller will pay the freight here, it is called freight prepaid. Kaya naglayag na yung ship, dadalhin na ngayon ito sa buyer at makakarating na sa port of destination. Okay. So if it is not paid on the seller's port of origin, okay, then it will be paid at port of destination. Then the buyer will pay it, and it will be the terms of the shipment will be freight collect. Okay, hindi na siya freight prepaid dahil buyer na magbabayad. Okay, and then of course the buyer will be the one responsible to bring it in his warehouse. Okay. Next is the types of shipping terms. What are the types of shipping terms? The first one is FOB shipping point. Ano ba yung FOB? FOB stands for free on board. Okay, let's illustrate that. What is FOB shipping point? So this is the seller's warehouse. The seller will bring it to the port of origin, and that port of origin is the shipping point. Ang ibig sabihin, dapat si seller, yung mga kargamento dapat maikarga doon sa barkong yan, yung shipping point. So, if the term is FOB shipping point, then the transfer of ownership occurs on the shipping point. Okay? The transfer of ownership between the seller and the buyer occurs on the shipping point. Okay? So, nandiyan yung transfer. So now, okay, dahil na-transfer na yung ownership dito, and then the shipping cost from the port of origin will now be shouldered by the buyer kasi nag-transfer na ng ownership. So, pag-aari na ni buyer yung mga goods. And then, of course, up to the port of destination, then it will be the buyer's all responsibility up to the point that the goods are already in the warehouse. So again, class, FOB shipping point, okay, the transfer of ownership occurred on the port of origin, which is the shipping point, and the transfer between the seller and the buyer occurred on this, so all the shipping costs will be shouldered by the buyer from the shipping point to the buyer's warehouse. Okay. If it was paid by the seller here, the shipping cost, kahit na si buyer ang mag-shoulder nun, then it is called FOB shipping point freight prepaid. Okay? However, kung hindi binayaran ni seller and babayaran ni buyer, then it is FOB freight collect. Galing yung term. Okay, class? So FOB shipping point can be freight prepaid or it can be freight collect. Depende kung sino ang nagbayad sa shipper. Okay, but the shipping point determines that the seller's responsibility is only up to the shipping point. Next is FOB destination. FOB destination, seller's warehouse, and then dadalhin sa port of origin. Then after that, now class, the goods, okay, there was no transfer of ownership here because it is FOB destination. So, the seller shoulder shipping cost dahil hindi niya pa nata-transfer sa buyer, okay? And then up to the port of destination. Okay? So, pagdating sa port of destination, dito lang magkakaroon ng transfer of ownership between the seller and the buyer. Okay? So, if it was paid here by the seller, it will be called FOB destination freight prepaid. And if not, if the buyer paid it at the port of destination, it is called FOB freight collect. And then the buyer will bring it to the warehouse. Okay, class, please note that the terms FOB destination or FOB shipping point defines the responsibility of the seller. Okay? The freight prepaid and freight collect defines kung saan siya babayaran, kung sino ang actual na nagbayad. So, FOB destination, then ang ibig sabihin seller will have to shoulder all the costs up to the destination. Kung ang terms is FOB shipping point, seller shoulders the shipping cost hanggang dito lang or the movement up to here lang. Okay, class? Okay. Let's have the summary of shipping terms. So we have here, who will shoulder the shipping cost? Sino talaga ang magsa-shoulder? Ito, sino yung magbabayad sa shipper? Sino ang magbabayad? But it doesn't mean na basta siya ang magbabayad, siya ang magsa-shoulder. Okay? So that depende yan. So FOB shipping point, it defines the seller's responsibility. Anong ibig sabihin? FOB shipping point. So who will shoulder the shipping cost? So, it will be the buyer kasi ang responsibility lang ni seller is hanggang shipping, hanggang origin. So, hanggang sa basta naglayag na to the buyers, up to the buyer's warehouse or sa destination. So, it will already be the buyer's responsibility. Okay, ang seller's responsibility lang is nasa shipping point and on the shipping point or port of origin, doon na magta-transfer ang ownership. Then the next question, who will pay the shipper? Hindi pa natin alam kasi depende kung freight prepaid. Kung freight prepaid, saan binayaran yan? Doon sa origin, so it will be the seller ang nagbayad. Okay? Next is FOB shipping point. So again, who will shoulder the shipping cost? The buyer. Okay? So who will pay the shipper? Depende. If it is freight collect, then the buyer will pay it kasi it's collect. Okay? Next, FOB destination. FOB destination, who will shoulder the shipping cost? Destination ito. Ang ibig sabihin, ang responsibility ng seller is hanggang destination. So who will shoulder the shipping cost? The seller. Okay? And then who will pay the shipper? Hindi natin alam. Dahil we have to know first whether it's freight prepaid or freight collect. So in this case, FOB destination, freight prepaid. So who will pay the shipper? The seller. Okay? FOB destination. Then who will shoulder the shipping cost? The seller. And then who will pay the shipper? If it is freight collect, it will be the buyer. Okay, class? Next, document of the shipment. So first document, the only document that we are going to discuss here is the bill of lading. The bill of lading serves as a contract between the shipper, who is the seller, and carrier, the shipping line. Okay? In this document, all aspects of the freight shipment, that is, goods being shipped, receiver of the shipment, terms of shipment, whether it's FOB shipping point or FOB destination, and port of payment, are indicated in this document. Okay? So, class, any question? That's it for this topic. It's a very short topic. If you have questions, okay, just let me know. Okay, class?